Hi, I'm Samantha Anderson, Director of Communications for Newton Public Schools, and I'm here with Superintendent Van Rankin, and we are going to recap last night's Board of Education meeting and just answer any questions you may have. As always, feel free to leave them in the comments section. One of the first items you all talked about was the economic survey and kind of an update on that and what families can expect if they fill it out and also what they get out of it.
For those families that fill out the survey, they'll get a $10 off of their curriculum fee for all families. And then in grades 7 through 12, $10 also off of the technology fee. So this is to serve as an incentive to complete the form. Obviously, those families that then hit the income guidelines for the free lunch status, that will allow them to get a free curriculum fee and a reduced set of fees for other different services or other different fees that we collect. So there's a fee schedule online. Please feel free to take a look at that. I don't have those memorized for some reason, but this was just set up as that incentive, as we've talked about a few times. And I think we have a session tomorrow. Is that right, Sam, to talk about that some more?
Yep, it is actually at noon. We changed it to noon, so more people seem to have lunch at that time. So we wanted to be able to catch you at that time. So we'll be able to give you more information, answer some of your questions, and just kind of really reiterate how important this is for your family and the district as a whole.
So I'll repeat that. What we've said in the past is that that survey, that information we receive from parents, those that qualify for that free lunch status, that serves as that proxy for at-risk funding. So to make it clear, this has nothing to do with the lunch program itself. This is to serve as that 0.484 FTE funding per student that qualifies for free lunch according to the survey. So that gives us additional funding in the district. And as I've said before, we lost a couple $100,000 last year in that last year's or this current year's fiscal budget because of a reduced number of applications than what we had expected. It was much larger than what we had expected. So we hope this will serve to collect more of those forms. So we hope you guys participate.
All right, and if you have any questions on that, you can join us tomorrow at noon on our Facebook page, or just ask them now, just leave them in the comments section. Now, there was a lot of discussion. This came up a couple of years ago about the Newton High School academic recognition and what we plan to do moving forward. Can you just kind of go into the suggestion, which is not official and can definitely be changed, as well as, all the work that went into and all went into coming up with that suggestion?
Well, if you get a chance, it might be helpful to listen to that conversation that took place, because that was probably a 20-minute conversation with at least 20 minutes that also involved a presentation from high school principal Caleb Smith. And he kept his recommendation till the very end. So, his recommendation, I believe, was to keep the cum laude system, but base it on GPA, drop the ACT requirement, make the GPA levels a little higher, only weight AP courses, not honors courses. And perhaps weight some of the college credit courses, but there needs to be a process in place that gets principal approval for those college courses, not just principal approval, but perhaps also the department chair, and then remove those honors courses from the weighted system and remove the course requirement from the cum laude system. So that was his recommendation. And what the board wants to do is take some time. We really want to have a decision made before school starts, because you want to make sure that the rules are all known as much as is possible. There was a lot of conversation in relation to this about, okay, should we grandfather this in, do this over time? In other words, any student that already has a high school transcript going, those rules should apply that were in place when they started high school, and then start this with the incoming freshman class, which is normally what happens with graduation requirements in most facilities, and I understand the desire to want to do that. When you think about it from a fairness perspective, you've been playing this game, you're a junior, you just finished up your junior, you're going to become a senior, and all of a sudden we remove all of that. I could see that really causing some issues. On the other hand, I see, maybe a student taking a different course than they would have. So if you, like I said, get a chance, you really need to sit down and listen to that presentation and take into account all of the different little context pieces that Mr. Smith applied during the board meeting, because did a tremendous job of presenting that to the board. I think, in the end, his goal is really just to get a decision made so we don't have to revisit this for a few more years. Anytime you set up a system where you're going to create some sort of a ranking, you're always going to have people saying, hey, that's not fair, or I don't like that because of this. And we all have ideas or opinions about that. And we just want a decision made so that maybe we can put it to rest for a couple more years before it resurfaces again. Because I think there were some loose ends left based upon the interpretations of some individuals that had been involved in those conversations from a couple of years ago. So it was great. It was a great discussion. It really, really was. So the board does want to have your input as it relates to that. So, reach out, provide some context. Mr. Smith, I'm sure, would as well. And we want to make a great decision for Newton kids and Newton families.
And if you do want to watch that piece, I just went and checked. It's right about at the 1 hour mark. So if you just want to forward to that and watch that, we know there's a lot to watch there. So hopefully that makes it easier. The board also approved a special hiring bonus for some hard to fill teaching positions, or maybe even other positions. Can you just let us know kind of what to expect, and then also what was the thinking behind that?
Well, we had a lot of late resignations, and we have some resignations from some teaching areas that are really difficult to fill. And in a previous setting, I had this authority to provide a signing bonus, which what it allows you to do is compete sometimes with districts that pay more, and you don't lose them due to money, because usually in a good school system like ours, once we get people here, we hope that they want to stay based upon the culture that we can provide them and the opportunities that we can provide them. And so you kind of take that money piece off of the table sometimes. So it just serves as a bonus. And you think too, one of the issues you run into is some people will say, that's not fair. I didn't get a signing bonus. You offered it to this position, but not that position. And I totally understand that, but we also want to make sure we don't lose good teachers. They are so hard to find. It is such a competitive environment right now. I know a district within 40 miles of here that is giving teachers like $5,000 signing bonus. And actually was to actually break contracts with other districts and those kinds of things. So, it is a very competitive market. Our salary schedule is not bad. It's not the top for sure. So this allows us to just give us a little bit more leverage and flexibility to be able to go after the best teachers that we can get. Another concern you have is who gets to make that decision. If I were the high school principal or a principal in a building, I'd want to be able to offer that bonus, because I'd give it to everybody. I'd give it to the person that I wanted. So we want to make sure it's definitely a hard to fill position based upon the context at that time. Like in February, for example, a science position is always hard to fill, but it's not near as hard to fill in May or June than it is in February. So might give one in May or June to make sure we don't lose that better candidate, but would not give one in February to do that. So it'll be at the discretion of my office, and I'll be communicating with my HR person and my Board of Education president to let them know kind of where we're going. So it'll be a positive for the district, I think.
All right, well, we'll give one last call for questions, but until then, I have a fun little plug. I have my 150-year anniversary t-shirt on. It's the first one they released. It's just kind of fun. And I know we'll be doing a lot with them. The 150-year anniversary, just sesquicentennial, which I can never say right, but it's on 2/22/22. So it's pretty easy to remember, but that's just kind of when everything starts, and they'll be having different activities, different probably giveaways and everything throughout 2022. So it should be a lot of fun. I know you can still get the shirts from the Convention Visitors Bureau, but they're selling really fast. They had to order more but just make sure you keep your eye out on social media and different places on like just all the fun things we can do as a community to celebrate 150 years of waiting on trains, as the shirt says, but really just 150 years of Newton. So do you have anything else to add yourself, Mr. Van Rankin?
As most of you know, we had a pretty severe storm come through this past weekend, Friday evening, and we had some severe damage at a roof on our service center, and then also the brick facade on the northwest portion of Lindley Hall fell to the ground. So we had some other damage, a little bit on other facilities, mainly limb damage and stuff. So, so that will be another insurance claim that will have to be filed. Some information will come out about that. There's been a couple news stories already on different television stations and so on. I'm sure there'll be something in the paper. So I want to give a shout out to our maintenance department because they were right on it that evening on Friday evening when I got over there to both locations. You know, they were in the middle of making sure that we can get the building secure and everything was safe. And then they spent a lot of the next day on Saturday making sure that everything was good, and they rechecked some of the buildings to ensure we were good. Our technology department also got right on it Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning to make sure we were back online from a data perspective. So I really appreciate them. And I know our transportation department, they were out there making sure all of our buses and stuff were functional. And so we won't have any issues there. Also some local individuals, Ray Roofing, for example, they beat me to the service center on Friday evening because our head maintenance director, I also beat him. He lived out of town, lives just south of town. So, but one of the Ray Roofing people, they were already there and they were great about getting a temporary roof. So just appreciate the response of the community. And I really want to give that shout out to our maintenance folks and our technology staff for addressing all the stuff that needed to be to ensure we could function this week. So.
All right, well, we didn't get any more questions. So if anybody thinks of some, you can just email info@usd373.org. And again, tomorrow at noon to get some more information on those economic surveys. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you everybody for watching. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.